All right, I'm going to call an alibi right now. Obviously, I am not out in front of that right now.
Check this out. Before everybody gets in here, let me.
Yeah. What? See?
I need to know.
See?
What?
He's magic. Wait. I forgot.
I also want you all to take note. I actually questioned myself in my home gym so that next year when we play the junior high, I will be better. We will knock you down in your feet again, Ron. Next year is our year.
Okay, everybody, hold on. Can I talk to Steve real quick, please? I'm sorry. Steve, you there? You listening?
Yep.
Okay. I always freak out around this time. So, what am I supposed to do? Like, I do have the board meeting up, but I don't see it right now.
No, like everybody got kicked out because we have account, so everybody got kicked out.
Yeah.
So,
So Teresa, can you minimize Zoom and then pull up the board docs in a separate window and have them side by side?
hold on, yeah, that's what I'm trying. Yeah. Hold on, Teresa.
Or do you want me to share the scoreboard?
Yeah, I mean, I can't do the scoreboard until I do until I take roll. But yes, Jamie, okay, thank you, yes, that's you, you must have did that, Steve.
Yes.
Teresa, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. All right, thank you. Okay. Okay, so I have what I need to have up, and I see the scoreboard up. So I believe I'm good. Do you all see the same thing? Do you see the scoreboard? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Who is still waiting for several board members?
So Eddie, I forget, somebody wanted to share a PowerPoint slide?
Hey, guys, Mr. Corson,
Mr.
I already
Corsi.
spoke. I'm gonna take it for him, and I'll click through his slides as he does the presentation. Yes, sir.
All right.
He's not telling you. He's bribing me for gear to do it.
Oh.
Hey, Eddie, I got cut off of the.
No, everyone did that.
Oh, you heard that? Because you heard that?
I can't open my screen so I could see everybody in the little squares, but I can't see everybody for some reason. I did it earlier, but I can't see everybody now.
If you look in the upper right-hand corner, there should be a gallery view, 9 little dots. If you click on that, you should be able to see everybody now.
That's what I'm doing, but it's not working for me. But it's all right.
With the screen share, you can't do that. When somebody's sharing a screen, you can't have the full gallery view.
Okay, great.
You'll
Thank
see
you.
the line on the right hand side.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and mute all participants. Remember, if you need to speak, feel free to unmute yourself. But then that way everyone will...
Except me for now.
I'm sorry, who was except me for now? Oh, Teresa? Yes.
Teresa, yes.
Okay, no problem.
Yes.
We're still missing a couple of board members.
I'm in, James, just so you know.
Yeah, I see you. I see you there. I'm not seeing Miss Hodge yet, and I'm not seeing Miss Lawson at this point. Miss Lawson's having trouble dialing in.
Mike can't get in either.
We'll give Ms. Lawson just another minute.
Ms. Glasser, I see that another phone number has called in 520-4640. I don't know if that's Ms. Lawson or not.
That's our number.
Very good. Then let's go ahead and begin. Good evening, everyone. The hour of 7 p.m. having arrived and passed. Apologies for our tardiness and technical issues. To start, I call to order the agenda-setting meeting for the Woodland Hills School Board for the month of May 2020. Ms. Hoffman, will you call the roll?
Mr. Graves?
Present.
Ms. Seligson?
Present.
Ms. Lawson?
She's on mute, but she's here.
Ms. Curry?
Here.
Ms. Strasbach? Mr. Belmont? Ms. Glasser? I'm sorry, Ms. Scott?
I'm here.
Ms. Hodge?
Here.
Ms. Lawson? I'm sorry, Ms. Strasbach?
Here.
Ms. Glasser?
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America.
and to the republic
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a moment of silence. Please observe a moment of silence to recognize and extend our sympathy in the passing of Mr. Chuck Levitt, who is the parent of Woodland Hills students. He passed away on May 6, 2020. Thank you. Okay. Next week, we will accept the minutes for the April legislative and agenda setting meetings. Are there any notes, corrections, questions on the minutes at this time? Okay, hearing none. That'll move us to executive session. The board met in executive session immediately prior to this meeting to discuss legal and personnel matters. Mr. Harris, are there announcements?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, just one announcement. Woodland Hills High School will be having graduation on June 5th. We will be doing a drive-through graduation. More details will be following this week to update families on what's happening. If you check out the high school Facebook page, there is a little teaser video that's up there, and we'll be sending it out to our senior families through our new robocall system within the next day. But parents, please stay tuned for updates on the graduation, which will be held June 5th. The graduation start time will be 10 a.m. So more news to follow. That's all. Hello?
Thank you for that.
Okay.
No student speakers this evening, but we do have a presentation. Mr. Corsi.
Good evening, everyone. I will rely on Mr. Wilson with his assistance to put the PowerPoint up. He is officially my Vanna White for this evening. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Okay, once again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy in these trying times. I'd like to thank the board for giving me an opportunity to present to both yourselves, the administration, and the community at large, our proposal for the Woodland Hills Soccer Complex. And we are calling this proposal the Light It Up campaign, which is essentially a campaign or proposal in which we request field lights be installed down at the Woodland Hills Soccer Complex, down at the high school stadium and soccer field. Next slide, thank you. So as you can read, essentially, the current Woodland Hills Soccer Complex, which was originally renovated in 2008 and currently planned for turf renovation in summer 2020, is the only soccer-specific all-weather turf venue in Western PA. This makes us very, very unique in the sense that the majority of high school soccer complexes within not only Western PA, but the state at large have a shared motto with their football program. This results in multiple lines, multiple events, multiple venues, or multiple events taking place within the venue. Aside from the soccer-specific field use, the complex is also home to our track and field program, as well as, might I add, our youth soccer programs and various other community initiatives that are hosted on that soccer field. Anybody that lives in this community, including myself, knows that our soccer field at the high school is essentially a hub for not only our athletics, but also our community. People work out there, people walk there, youth organizations, community gatherings. We've even had community days there. It is just a all-around central hub for our community. So when renovated in 2008, the concept of creating a lighted venue was considered cost prohibitive. Cost constraints appear to continue to be an obstacle. So what I'd like to present this evening is essentially why I would like the school board members in the district at large to consider adding field lights to the upcoming summer 2020 renovation project. Next slide. Oh, okay, you already beat me there. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. You're ahead of the game. So the Woodland Hills Soccer Complex Light It Up campaign aims to encourage the Woodland Hills School Board to consider the addition of field lighting to the current renovation contract. And we are requesting this because field lighting would enhance the student athlete experience while also enhancing the venue's appeal to prospective clients, thus allowing the complex to be a substantial revenue generator for the school district. Next slide. So throughout this presentation, and it's very brief, as you can see, there are only about 6 or 7 additional slides. We're going to harp on 3 key components. The one is the improved experience. We want to enhance the student experience. Anybody that knows me and has talked to me, and I've used this term repeatedly throughout my 3 years here in the district, I always refer to myself as a kid guy. And what I mean by that is that every decision that I make, every policy put in place, every budget move, every event plan is always kid-centered and kid-focused. And with that in mind, we always try to move our district from an athletic standpoint in the best interest of our student athletes and our community as a whole. So with lights, this will be an improved experience for our student athletes, and I'll get in that in a minute. The second point that I'll emphasize in this presentation is increase the appeal. We want to enhance the venue's appeal to prospective clients. With us having one of the only soccer-only facilities within Western PA, adding field lights will absolutely enhance our venue, and in turn, it will become very attractive to people renting and looking for quote-unquote home fields for youth leagues, men's leagues. I'll touch on that as well. And the third pillar of this presentation is going to be create another revenue generator, and that just ties in with the appeal factor, transform the complex into a substantial revenue generator for the school district. My goal is to, first and foremost, I will never lie to you and say my goal is not focused around kids. The main reason for me coming to you this evening is to enhance the experience for our students. But the other goal is that not only we raise enough revenue to eventually pay for these lights that will be installed, but we also treat it as a revenue stream that 10, 15 years from now, the district is able to make a substantial windfall on the investment. Next slide. So the $1 million question is, why are lights so important? So I just said to you 2 minutes ago, I'm a kid guy, and I pride myself on having an open door policy with our students. And the cool thing about that is that our students usually come into my office between me and Coach Tim, and they talk to us about what's going well, what's not going well. They talk about their highs, their lows, their joys, their pains. And it's pretty cool because with that being the policy, we're able to keep a pulse on of our student body. And that way we can affect decision-making based on what is, again, in the best interest for our students. So what I did to start this presentation is I basically went to two of my senior captain soccer players, and I just wanted to kind of pick their brain about what their thoughts were about not having lights and the potential of getting lights installed. Next slide. Oh, nope, you're there already. So, yeah, go back. I apologize. It's hard doing this, looking at the screen and looking at my phone at the same time. So bear with me, people. So the gentleman you'll see here is Mr. Lewis Roddicker. He's a 4-year soccer player. He was a senior captain, and he is a member of our first ever soccer team in the history of Woodland Hills School District to make the soccer playoffs for the WPIL. So I asked Lewis just some simple questions, and he said, Mr. Corsi, I'll do you one better. I'd like to do a video to share with the community and the school board on my thoughts about lights. And so now you're going to hear from Lewis.
Greetings, members of the school board. My name is Lewis Roddicker. I'm a 2020 graduate and played 4 years of varsity soccer. I was a co-captain for the Wolverines' first sectional appearance. Not having lights in our field makes our schedules very awkward. Our field is the only one that has no lights, making our away games 3 to 4 hours later than our home games. Having such early games is challenging, not only for the players, but for parents as well. We don't even have a senior rec at our field. We have to play a football field, which changes the game for us. A high school soccer field is a pretty standard feature for all Woodland schools. This shouldn't be a special request, but maybe the fact that we have to ask will tell you how soccer is valued in Woodland Hills.
So I want you guys to focus in on a couple things he said. I want to work backwards. First and foremost, he makes the statement of value of the soccer program and value of student athletes who play soccer here at the district. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you guys that obviously a lot of our soccer players feel like secondhand citizens because they feel like not only with them not having lights, but also sharing a season with football, which is obviously our flagship, which has had the most success and has all of the NFL guys and so on and so forth. They oftentimes feel neglected or overlooked. And so when he makes the statement of feeling undervalued as a soccer player and as a program, it makes me as an administrator scratch my head and say, well, we don't want any kid, whether he be an athlete, a participant in a musical, a scholar, we don't want any student in our district to feel undervalued and underrepresented. So if that's not enough for you, obviously I wanted to get both sides of the coin. I reached out to Miss Maggie Schifo, next slide, also a senior, class of 2020, captain on the girls' soccer team. She's going to kill me for telling you all this, but she didn't feel comfortable filming herself. She said she didn't like her voice. So she wrote an eloquent excerpt for me, and I took quotes from what she said for the sake of time. Just as a point of reference, her essay was about 3 pages long on issues she had with soccer field and lights and so on and so forth. If I read the whole thing, we'd be here all night, and I know none of us want to do that. So I just took out some quotes that I thought were very, very interesting that you guys should pay attention to. And I quote, "In all honesty, it was an adjustment going from home to away games. Almost all of our opponents' fields had lights, and we were playing at 6 p.m. instead of 3:30 in the afternoon. I think it was a huge adjustment for our new players. We feel embarrassed having to play in the middle of the day, and this drops our confidence level, which in turn affects how we play. Being embarrassed and then having to go play is horrible, and I would not want that next generation of Woodland Hills soccer players feeling this way." Next slide. She chimes in witness in reference to safety and comfort for students. And I quote, "The sun at 3:30 in the afternoon is basically when it's at its highest. Therefore, that is when it is the hottest point of day. Why would you ever expect someone to play their best game in those conditions? The answer is you shouldn't. No one should. By installing lights at the high school, you would be saving the teams from having to play in these overheated and frankly unsafe conditions. I'll chime in that obviously in October, and if the playoffs come into factor in November, temperature is not a factor. But in August and September, at a 3:30 start, there have been times where you go down on that soccer field and it is literally 80 to 90 degrees. And anybody who's ever sat in those bleachers down there, which most of us have, if not for nothing else other than graduation, know that the sun smacks you right in the head when you sit in those bleachers. So I can absolutely attest to her concerns about safety and comfort. Next slide. And then her last quote was, I think that there was some conflict with practice times due to the lack of lights. We would constantly have to share the field with other sports teams and then would have to leave once it got dark. We would end practices early because it was unsafe to kick balls at each other in the dark. Having to shorten our practices was not beneficial, and we would often suffer the consequences in games. Those practices would be very helpful to the new players just learning the game, and they would miss things by cutting practice short. So, next slide. She sums it all up by saying, soccer is probably one of the most undervalued sports at Woodland Hills. This entire plea for lights should be proof of that. We may not win a lot of games, and we may not have the highest number of all section players, but what we do have is heart and the strength to keep going on, even when it's embarrassing or hard. We deserve the same attention, resources, and importance as the football team or any other sport at Woodland Hills. So again, we have a student athlete who's feeling undervalued, underrepresented, and both Lou and Maggie raised great points about not only just the morale and the psyche of our athletes, but also just some legitimate concerns about temperature, about practice time, about just the structure of the stadium and how it's a challenge without lights. Next slide. So I talked with Mr. Belmont and Mr. Graves briefly before putting this presentation together, and they challenged me to basically outline, what would be the benefit of the district investing in field lights? What would be the factor that would move the needle for us to actually spend this type of money and make this investment? And I came up with these points of emphasis. Increase practice time for teams on game days. Our soccer programs are they are suffering because of the lack of practice time, as Maggie referred to. Every other soccer program within the WPIL has a 2 to 3 hour window for their boys, a 2 or 3 hour window to their girls. They're able to do skill development, conditioning, so on and so forth. Our programs in the 3 years I've been here, and I'm quite sure it's been going on longer than I've been with the district, are always shortchanged because they either are splitting a field with the other team, or if there's a game on that particular day, the girls are not playing or not practicing, and vice versa. If we truly want to be competitive within a WPIL, we cannot reduce the amount of practice time. And anything, we need to increase it, especially with the recent success of the boys team. I think we need to capitalize on this and grow on practice time. Second point I'd like to reference is the 7 p.m. game time starts, make it easier for parents and family. I shared this with a couple people. Where I'm from in Maryland, the only time everybody knows I was a basketball player. That was my bread and butter. Where I'm from in Maryland, the only games on Friday, the only games that start at 7 o'clock are on Friday nights. If you played a game on Tuesday, the JV played at 3:30, the varsity played at 5. I cannot tell you how challenging it was for my parents to attend when I was a JV player at 3:30 games, and even as a varsity player, 5 o'clock games with a work schedule. I was blessed and fortunate that I had a mom who was a teacher, so that time frame wasn't dramatically affecting her. But I can't remember in 4 years a 3:30 or 5 o'clock game that my dad made on a Tuesday night. It just wasn't feasible for him. So this is something that for our community, our parents, our families, makes games more achievable for them to attend and support their kids. I think it can also create a better environment for our games at soccer and track meets. It's an attractive recruiting tool. One of the things that I have been tasked with through the vehicle of athletics is making sure that we're keeping our students within the district and trying to recoup some of the students that we've lost. We have several students that play soccer, and I know because I've signed the transfer waivers, that are at Oakland Catholic, Central Catholic, Sarah Catholic. We have some students that are at the Propel charter schools, but they choose not to play soccer here because it's just too much of a hassle getting back and forth. I think that with lights, this becomes something that eliminates our inequities, and it's something that we can now celebrate. We're putting in a brand new turf, putting in a brand new track. If we're able to announce to the world that we have lights and we have a first-class soccer stadium and soccer facility, I absolutely think it'll be a way to attract students to the Woodland Hills School District. Improve productivity on the field. We've already talked about that, practice times and the whole structure of schedules and how challenging it is for all of our teams to fit in a 2 or 3 hour window right after school with no lights. And the last piece is the revenue generated from new field rentals can supplement not only the cost of lights, but registration fees for students in community youth soccer groups. So a caveat I want to add, not only my vision is not only for us to generate revenue for us to eventually pay for these lights, but after talking to a couple of the board members, and I got to give a shout out to Mr. Belmont because this was one of his ideas and it was a concern of his. Some of our students in the community can't afford the registration fees to play youth organizations. And so what I'd like to see is after a 3 to 5 year period where our lights have been paid off, or maybe in conjunction with that period, we're able to use some of this money that we're able to generate through the revenue and give back to our community youth organizations to be able to sponsor or scholarship some of the kids by therefore growing our numbers of participants in these groups. I think that would be a game changer for our communities and for our youth leagues, because essentially if a kid really wants to play soccer, or even the parents want to introduce him or her to the game, but they just don't have the financial means to do it, with us as a district being able to say, with the revenue we've generated, we want to scholarship or sponsor a kid, I think that becomes a game changer in our community. Next slide, Eddie. So I'm going to conclude with the elephant in the room, finances. When I took my business classes in college, I had a professor that said, business venture that doesn't think about profit ever succeeds. Obviously, my number one motivation is kids and student focused, but I'm a realist and understand that as a district, we have to be fiscally responsible. And we also have to take into account, okay, this is great to want to put lights down there. In a perfect world, we'd already have them, but how the heck are we going to afford this? And why does it benefit us financially as a district? And so what I'm proposing is that if we are to move forward with lights, we'll do it twofold. I'd like to do, as you see on your screen, anticipated lease agreements. And basically what lease agreements are is the way we operate now with our facilities is Joe Schmo organization calls Mr. Finney. They say they want to rent a field or a gym. We give them the rate. They say, okay, I want it for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the next month. We put them in. And then the next month, we hope that they come back. Or if not, we hope that somebody takes their place. There is no way to have a stable financial projection when doing business like this. And although it works great for especially some of our nonprofit organizations and some of our community-based orgs, in the long run, if we're truly being cognizant of trying to raise money, that is not the approach we need to do for this soccer field. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have leases on an event-by-event basis with several organizations. We have talked to people throughout the community. I've talked to Arsenal Soccer. I've talked to the Dynamo Men's Soccer League. I've talked to some of the clubs, some of the cup organizations. They are all starving for fields. There is just not enough fields in Western PA to go around. And a lot of these teams, when they get their hand on the field, i.e. Shadyside Academy, Arsenal Soccer Club has an exclusive agreement with Shadyside Academy where that is their home field. They have all their practices there. They have all their games there. And they're in a contract or an agreement or a lease, if you will, with Shadyside Academy where they pay a certain amount of money every week or every month for uses of the field. And it's a guaranteed dollar amount throughout that duration of that contract or that lease. As you can see, the projections assume that a mix of daylight at $150 an hour and night at $200 an hour. Side note, we charge more for night because obviously we factor in the cost of turning the lights on. And anybody who's into renting facilities is very familiar that when you rent a facility at night, you're absolutely going to pay more. So we pay an average rate of $175. I'm assuming a 6-hour field use per week for the first year. I kept it conservative for the first year because we obviously have to iron out with Mr. Finney and his staff, our facilities department, people to work the facility, how much manpower it takes to, operate our stadium. And I would want us to increase incrementally over the next 4 years. So you'll see on the bottom there, the year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5 mark, where we increase per hours per week. And this is how we'll be able to generate revenue. Next slide, sir.
Mr. Corsi, So your 10-minute presentation is now 20 minutes. So if
I'm sorry. I'm done. This is it. This is the last slide. Apologies. So in conclusion, the essential is that either way, whether we do exclusive or non-exclusive leases, this is what we would do to raise revenue. And if you kick to the last slide, my last statement is our kids are worth the investment. I sent you all email today with increased financial details. I left that out because I was trying to be time conservative. I apologize, Ms. Glasser, for going over the time. However, I'm very passionate about doing this project for the benefit of our kids. If anybody has any questions, I'll entertain them at this time. If Mr. Finney has anything that he wants to chime in that I forgot, that's cool. If not, I will shut my mouth and enjoy the rest of the school board meeting.
Okay, questions, board members?
I have a question, Mr. Finney. Mr. Finney, wow. Mr. Corsi.
We look so much alike.
I know, right? Mr. Corsi, can you explain what the issues are with the kids using the football field for senior rec night? And
Absolutely.
Also, can you explain the popularity of soccer within our district?
Absolutely. So your first question, the football field, because I've gotten that rebuttal, we have a field in the district with lights. Unfortunately, the football field, the Wolverine the field is not dimensionally set for soccer. The field is not wide enough, and therefore the dimensions are not set up for soccer. So when we play our senior rec games there, and then we have a kick-out cancer game there, we're always having to go and beg and plead with the referees to kind of turn a blind eye because the corner kicks are always cut short and the sidelines are cut short. So it's not a regulation field. In all honesty, any referee that's certified through the WPIO could come to the Wolverine and say, this is not a regulation field. We're not playing this game. You're forfeit. However, people know our situation and they're always sympathetic to it. But at the end of the day, that's not conducive for us having a full-time night schedule at the Wolverine because it's just not a regulation field. The second question in reference to, what was your second question?
Just about the popularity of soccer within the Woodland Hills district.
Yes. So the Woodland Hills Soccer Organization is a huge, huge organization within our community. Again, I'm not from here, but from my understanding, once upon a time, all of the neighborhoods or boroughs had their own soccer organizations. Over the last couple of years, most of those organizations have merged into one umbrella, which is the Woodland Hills Youth Organization. That organization has hundreds upon hundreds of kids, and it's introducing soccer for as young as 4 to 5 years old, and it's going all the way up into the high school age. So soccer is a very, very popular sport within our district and our community. It's a sport that is very, very well supported throughout our community, and it's something that I think our community members, our parents, and our families would appreciate with the addition of lights as well, because now it expands their scope as well. Oftentimes, they're fighting for time on our fields as well, because the varsity programs take precedence, and obviously they get the scraps of what's left. I don't like doing that to our kids because those are our feeders. That's our foundation for what will eventually be our middle school programs and our high school programs. So soccer is a huge, huge component in our community. I would venture to say soccer is right up there with basketball and football in reference to youth organizations. Football obviously being number one, but I'd say soccer and basketball are neck and neck for second place in our community as far as participants are concerned. I'm not talking about value, just number of kids that actually participate.
I think I would agree with you on that. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Other questions from board members? Okay.
Thank you all for your time. Again, I apologize for exceeding my time limit.
Thank you, Mr. Corsi. Much appreciated. Okay. I don't believe we have any registered speakers. Is that the case, Ms. Hawthorne?
No
That's
speak.
correct.
All right. Mr. Harris, board matters.
Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, great. Okay, board matters 2.1, first reading of revised policy 249, bullying, cyberbullying. There should be an attachment there showing the updates. The changes are in bold. Are there any questions? Okay, on board matters 2.2, we seek approval of blank up to 3 as voting delegate to the PSBA 2020 Delegate Assembly.
We need to take volunteers for this. Mr. Gigliotti, do you know the date of that? I don't have the notes in front of me. I apologize.
I don't have the notes in front of me.
November 7th at 9 a.m.
November 7th. Okay.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, November 7th. And it'll be via Zoom.
Okay.
So it'll either be live or Zoom, depending on
COVID conditions and
the COVID conditions. Yes.
Okay. So board members, we need 3 volunteers who are willing to participate in that. I'm happy to go if people are amenable to that. Anyone else interested?
Where's this one at, Jamie?
If it's live, I believe it'll be in Hershey. That's where it generally is at the PSBA conference. But it's likely to be conducted by Zoom. I believe they're thinking that's going to be the case for most of the conference.
I'll volunteer.
Actually, this year it'll be at the Mountain View Middle School in Cumberland Valley School District or via Zoom. So they do have some changes in it.
So still Harrisburgish.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay, I think I heard Miss Lawson say she'd be interested.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll go if needed, Jamie.
Okay. Anyone want to fight and add a 4th name to the mix?
No, thank you.
So who are the 3 names?
It'll be myself, Miss Lawson, and Miss Seligson.
Okay.
Mike, can you say the date again, please? I didn't catch that.
November 7th.
Okay. All right. Mr. Harris, next.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
You can.
Okay, good. Okay, curriculum 3.1. We seek permission to approve summer curriculum writing postings. Any questions? Okay, 3.2, we seek authorization and approval of all Title I school parent and family engagement policies. Any questions? Okay, 3.3, we seek authorization to partner with Carlow University School of Social Work to provide 2 master's students to assist in pre-K and kindergarten enrollment. Any questions? 3.4, we seek permission to authorize summer school for the 2019-2020 school year. Are there any questions? Okay. We're in section number 4, special education. 4.1, the Special Education Office seeks approval to renew the contract with Wesley Family Services for 3 therapeutic classrooms for the 2020-2021 school year at a service cost amount of $284,370. Are there any questions? Okay. Can you still hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, 4.2, special education. Approval to renew our contract agreement for the 2020-2021 school year with Avena Care Unlimited, Inc. for a contracted amount of $45 an hour for RN services, $40 an hour for LPN services, and or $24 an hour for home health aid services, paraprofessional services from General Fund 10. Any questions? Okay, 4.3. We seek approve CRNP contract for physician-based service for the 2020-2021 school year access. Any questions? Okay, there's nothing under people personnel, so we go to 6, personnel. 6.1, Section A, authorization for leaves. Section B, authorization for retirement/resignations. Section F, authorization for EDR/mentor actions. Section G, authorization for miscellaneous. Are there any questions? Okay. Number 7, technology. 7.1, we seek permission to renew support on the data center Cisco phone system at a cost of $14,562.27 from General Fund 10. Are there any questions? 7.2, we seek approval to renew our annual subscription to Snap Health Center at a cost of $4,680 from General Fund 10. Snap is what the nurses use to input information. Are there any questions? 7.3, we seek approval to accept the AMCOM proposal for outside printing services. Are there any questions? Okay, there is nothing under safety and security, so it takes us down to 9, food service and transportation. 9.1, we seek approval of the nutrition contract for food service for the 2020-2021 school year. This is the final renewal of this contract we entered into on July 1, 2016. That included a possible for renewal years, pending state approval. Are there any questions? Okay, 9.2, discussion of renegotiated transportation rates for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year due to early school closing. Are there any questions? Okay, takes us down to number 10, buildings and grounds. 10.1, permission to approve the district water treatment for the boiler systems at the 3 elementary buildings and the administration building. Total cost is $1,200 from General Fund 10. Are there any questions? 10.2, we seek approval of proposed GC-012 for Nello Construction for the Dixon School, totaling $150,000 from Fund 39 Capital Projects. Are there any questions?
We do have Mr. Doyle and I believe Mr. Arnold from Reynolds if we have any questions regarding these change orders at Dixon.
Maybe Mike ought to run through the changes for everybody, give a brief summary of it. Mike Arnold.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Mike.
Good. Okay. Yes, thank you. Basically, this is a conclusion to a lengthy negotiation process with Nello for their final change orders on the Dixon project. During the course of the updates over the course of the project, there was a lot of time and material items that we were trying to get concluded with them, and it was difficult getting all the backup and getting their paperwork in. But the bottom line is their amount originally started at $275,000. We challenged them as we've done throughout with their changes, and worked it down to the $150,000 amount. Of that, a good bit of that is the repairs to the North Drive that we spoke of. The existing North Drive, the existing construction of that was less than acceptable and proved to be lacking the proper base course and was deteriorating as we move forward. And that was originally not scheduled to be repaired, but we had to take care of that. There was some floor leveling. There was some lead abatement that needed to occur. And some of this does go back a ways, as we mentioned. Part of our challenge, and sometimes dealing with prime contractors, is getting them to understand the urgency in getting this information in. Their project manager was terminated at a critical time when we were trying to get this information together. So again, the apology for the lateness of these changes. Danny, any other major items out of that list of 150 that I'm not touching?
That covers most of it, Mike.
Dan Doyle?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I think Dan's on.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
This is Mike Gigalotti, the other Mike. Hey, we do have one other item I will need to add to the agenda. I started it this afternoon. I didn't get to it, but there's a $22,000 deduct on the Nello change order for shower stalls, and we're going to have to pay that $22,000 to Shipley Brothers because they purchased the shower stalls. So I will be adding another change order for $22,000 to Shipley Brothers because of the shower stalls. I just want to let
It's a net zero. It's in and out then, Mike, correct?
Should be.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be then.
Yep.
Excuse me, this is Bob Finney. On the showers, we did a punch list. There are issues with those showers. The water does not stay in the showers. The water shoots across the aisle to the next showers. So there's going to be a punch list where that stuff's going to have to be taken care of and repaired.
Yep. That's what the punch list is for, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
You know, they're looking into it already.
All right,
We'll make sure we hold money on that too, Bob.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any more questions? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was asking the same thing. Any questions from anyone from Mr. Arnold or Mr. Doyle? Board members?
Just a quick one about time. Since this was an issue with management, is that going to slow any of the progress, or is it just kind of a behind-the-scenes technical issue?
No, this is work that's already taken care of. It's actually completed work. As we noted, it was a time material basis during the course of the project, so time is not an issue. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me still?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, let's go to 10.3. We seek permission to approve field turf to install a new soccer field and new track at the high school. CoStar's proposal contract number 014-173, recreational and fitness equipment at the cost of $790,198.76 from Fund 39 Capital Projects. Any questions? Okay. 10.4, we seek permission to approve Musco Lighting to install new soccer lights at the high school. CoStar proposal contract number 008-119, MRO at the cost of $345,605 from Fund 39 Capital Projects. Any questions? Okay. 10.5. Requesting approval to move forward to get bids for the repairs of the Wolverine Stadium once we receive bid specs from Mazer Consulting. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Can we talk about what the repairs are? Is this referring to the landslide or is this something different?
Mr. Finney?
Yes, I'm sorry. All right. No, this is related to the landslide. So, speaking with Mazer Consulting, there is no wall needed, but the soils that slid, they have to be removed and also undercut and replaced with riprap, which is large rocks. So right now, I'm just waiting for them to send me the bid specs, and then we be able to get it out for people to bid on the job.
So what's the official repair? Is it the hillside?
Yes, it's the hillside itself.
Okay, and is there any responsibility for us on the roadway?
I don't see how, because that roadway was damaged before this landslide happened. And from talking to neighbors and people in that community, there was a water break, I guess, like 4 years ago, which caused that road to lift the way it is. So I'm assuming Turtle Creek will probably come after us and want us to repair the road. But my opinion is, I don't think we own to repair that road.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we can't hear you, sir.
Were you done, David?
I'm done. Mr. Harris's mic is out again.
Yeah, Mr. Harris, we can't hear you, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, let's go to 10.6.
May I ask a quick question on 10.4?
Okay, go ahead.
Jump back a little bit. Did we ever complete our conversations with Churchill when Mr. Corsi presented this a while back at committee? I know that was a talking about the lighting, I guess the glare or the radius that it would push back into the residential areas. Was all that sorted out?
Yes.
I can answer that. Sade, this is Mike. Yes, there's no lighting concerns on the part of Churchill. They got back to us and said that as far as they're concerned, the project's a go.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belmont.
Yep.
On that point, I'm going to advocate one more time that we also talk to the residents in Forest Hills, because the way that field is situated, there's going to be actually more impact on Forest Hills residents, at least as much impact on Forest Hills residents as Churchill, but it's not located in Churchill or in Forest Hills, so they don't have official oversight. But I do think we should be at least in contact and notify neighbors in that area.
I emailed a resident there last Friday, making her aware of the situation. I haven't heard back yet.
Great. I'm happy to help with that, Mike. You know, as you know, I have some connections up on that hill, so.
Really is.
I make a motion to put Jamie in charge of that.
Level best.
Second.
Thank you.
All right. Stop with that.
Okay. Any more questions on anything? So let's take it down to 10.6. We are requesting approval to accept from Mealy Mechanical LLC donation for Edgewood Elementary STEAM Academy new sidewalk ramp to the playground. Any questions on any of the building and grounds items? I know everything's delayed because of the Zoom, so we can cover any questions in the 10s. Okay. We have nothing under athletics or legal matters. That takes us to 13, school finance. 13.1, we seek ratification of the bill list for invoices paid after the April 15, 2020 legislative meeting. Any questions? Okay, 13.2, we seek approval of the May 2020 bill list. Any questions? 13.3, we seek the acceptance of the April 2020 fund reports and student activity reports for informational purposes. Are there any questions? 13.4, we seek approval of the investment reports for April 2020. Are there any questions? Okay. 13.5, we seek approval of the Forbes Road CTC operating budget for the 2020-2021 school year. Are there any questions? And 13.6, we seek to reappoint Valerie Shaver as treasurer effective July 1, 2020. Are there any questions? Okay, last one, 13.7, we seek approval of the proposed final budget for the 2020-2021 school year and resolution 549-20, authorizing its display and advertising. Are there any questions? Okay. Takes us down to 14, superintendent. 14.1, we seek approval to enter into agreement with Roxamore Sports Network for the recording and production services of the 2020 Woodland Hills High School graduation.
Mr. Harris, can I make a motion that we enter into that agreement after we discuss it?
I was just about to ask if we could do that because of the urgency and the timing. We need to enter into this agreement if the board would approve it this evening.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Belmont. Is there a second to that?
I second it.
Second from Mr. Graves. Any questions or discussion on the motion to contract with Roxamore for this purpose? Okay, hearing no questions, Ms. Hawthorne, will you take the vote, please?
Mr. Graves,
Yes.
Miss Seligson,
Yes.
Miss Scott,
Yes.
Miss Lawson,
Yes.
Miss Curry,
Yes.
Miss Hodge,
Yes.
Miss Strasbach,
Yes.
Mr. Beaumont,
Yes.
Miss Glasser.
Yes. Okay, motion carries unanimously. And a thank you to Roxamore for their assistance with that, which promises to be a pretty interesting day. So thank you very much.
Takes us down to 14.2. We seek approval to enter into agreement with Early Bird Childcare for the 2020-2021 school year. Are there any questions? 14.3, we seek permission to enter into agreement with Thomas Crone for the 2020 through 2021 through the 2023-24 school year. Are there any questions? And finally, 14.4, we seek to ratify to accept a grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture to support the Jump with Jill assemblies at Turtle Creek and Edgewood STEAM Academies. Are there any questions? I can also say that Wilkins already has this agreement, so all three elementaries are covered. Are there any questions?
Is that going to be something we can even do?
We will have to wait and see. I know at Wilkins it was delayed because of what's going on now with health, but it seems that we can delay it and it's still available.
I can speak to that a little bit too, Ms. Perry. Nurse Kennedy at the high school was instrumental in getting this grant, so thank you to her for putting in the work to do that. She's already in conversation with the Department of Agriculture about an extension to the contract, which is set to expire at the end of June. But she's talking with them about an extension that would allow the assemblies to continue at some point in the indefinite future.
Oh, great. Okay, perfect.
That it could happen at some point next year.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there any old business? Is there any new business? Okay, we have no reports. Any public comment? I know there's some folks on here. Just unmute your button if you would like to speak.
You can also use the raise hand function if there's anyone who wishes to address the board.
I don't see anything, and I think it's just us on it now. I don't know, a couple people.
There are several.
There are a couple.
Yeah, there are no hands raised.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So we go down to 19, adjournment. 19.1, we seek permission to adjourn the May 13, 2020 agenda setting meeting.
Their motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. I heard a motion from Scott and a second from Ms. Seligson. I think that's right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you. We'll see you all next week. Same Zoom time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay
Board,
safe, everyone. Have a great evening.
board members, there is a new link in your inbox for to return to executive session. Thank you.